Hello everyone. My name is Svetlana Andreevsky, and together with my partner Melissa Margua, we are presenting our project, Bilingual Speech Language Pathology Service in Illinois. In early childhood, language development is one of the most important parts of learning, but for bilingual children, language differences is often misunderstood as language disorders. That's why bilingual speech language pathology is essential. It helps identify if a child truly has a communication disorder or if they are simply developing to language. Okay, we have question. Who eligible? Children who have difficulty with speech, pronunciation, understanding, or expressing language can receive this service. For multilingual students, a bilingual CLP is important because the children must be evaluated in both languages to understand the full picture. It's not about fixing their accent or replacing their home language. No, it is about supporting communication in all of them language. Okay, we have next question. Who provides service? Who provides this service? Speech-language pathologists or CLPs or licensed professionals who work with children and adults. In school, they must hold the Illinois Professional Education License, PEL, and ACGA certification. For bilingual student and CLP who speaks the children's home language or work with interpreters, provides the best support. Illinois law policy. This is really important part. According to IDEA Part C, early interventional service start from birth to age 3, and Part B covers school-age children from 3 to 21. The law says every children must receive a free appropriate public education, FAPE, in the least restrictive environment, LRE. For multilingual learners, this means they have the right to be evaluated in both languages and to receive service in a culturally and linguistically appropriate way. How do the families access service? The questions. The process begins when a teacher or parents notice a delay or difficulty. When the child is referred for evaluation, if a team determines the child is eligible and individualized education program IEP is created and the CLP provides therapy based on the plan. Families are part of short step where input is essential for success. In many schools across Illinois, there is a catastrophic shortage of bilingual speech-language pathologists. This means that thousands of multilingual children do not receive the speech and language support they need, simply because there are not enough specialists. In my own school, we face this problem every day. We have many bilingual students, children who speak Russian, Ukrainian, Belarus, Spanish, and different language, but we do not have bilingual CLP. Sometimes teachers cannot fully understand what these children try to say.
Well, the benefits that we can have, first is the students. We need to remember that the first years of the child's development are really crucial for speech and language. So while the children are mixing up the languages, this is normal for them because it's part of the development. So they don't get confused. Instead, they're gonna help them build like a strong linguistic foundation. This process is also really important since it creates confidence and the improvement of like cognitive skills for them. And so they can create an effective communication through the speech therapy supports and a child's ability to socialize and be success at school. The other benefit that we can have is like when we have bilingual speech language pathologists, they really understand how the language is mixed and for typical bilingual patterns. So this is really important for the assessments and the support for an effective therapy. So they integrate a lot of cultural traditions like stories, family routines, so everything that we can relate it to engage to them. So they can easily identify language differences rather than the disorder. We can see more in the true communication disorders and no language prophecy. Another benefit is for the families. They receive all the support from the school and the speech language pathologists, so where they can participate and support the kids, and that make them feel really valued and part of the process. They feel like they're being seen and they're being heard, and this involvement and respect for the cultural values also reinforce the language that they use at home while the children is continue to learn at school. Additionally, there are sort of support resources to support not only the child but also family members like the brother, sister outside of school during the process. One of them is the Illinois SIP shops. Who benefits the most? Well, we believe that multilingual students with speech or language delays or disorders benefit the most from the speech therapies, and it can include English learners or ESLs as well. These practices take into account the family's cultural and bilingual backgrounds, so this approach values and includes the students' home language and cultural, helping to build pride and self-esteem while they learn. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges or drawbacks that we have. One of the biggest challenges that we have is how long it takes to get an evaluation. So for example, for the early intervention services, it can take around like 45 days after a referral. So that means that some kids might already be behind before they even start school. And in sometimes it can be very difficult to complete the transition to a school district special education program. And for the IEP evaluations through Chicago Public Schools, for example, it can take like 60 to 90 school days to complete it. So that's a very long time during a very important stage of the kids. And these delays are often due to the heavy caseloads, making it harder for the children to get the support when they need it the most. Another challenge that we have is the assessments. So they are really designed around monolingual language developments, so it doesn't always reflect the experience of a multilingual children. As a result, the language differences are sometimes mistaken for language disorders. But in reality, remember that children with true speech or language disorder will show difficulties in all the language and not only one. So this can lead a lot of being overlooked or misidentified in school. It can be a delayed support. So when they need it. Another challenge that we have is the staff. So, for example, there is a lot of tutors and the professionals who are trained with the linguistic and culturally responsive background. Okay, so by law, we're required to have these services, but as we were mentioned before, finding a qualified multilingual speech language pathologist specialist isn't always easy. So some school districts might need to contract private providers to meet the demand. So, for example, in Illinois, the report card shows from 2023-2024 that 56.1% of the children in early childhood education receive speech language impairment services. So that's a lot going on at the schools. So as we will gather information with our private services that support daycares and both public and private schools, but only in Spanish as Bilingual Species, Bilingual and Brilliant, Pedia Progress, Mr. Paula, and Soy Bilingual. This is great for Spanish-speaking families, but it can be very frustrating for families who speak other language. In fact, we're only able to find two providers, one in Indiana that meets the Illinois requirements and offer different language that is bilingual speech solutions. And the other one is functional speech therapy that's in suburban Illinois, but it gives services in Russian and Hebrew. Overall, not getting the right support can lead to language difficulties that can make reading or writing harder for kids, and in sometimes they might struggle with tests or even to lose the interest to going to school. And the most important, their social and emotional needs can be affected, and in sometimes it can cause anxiety and low confidence. The report cards that I mentioned before, they're only numbers that we need to remember that they are kids with real needs. Even if we're not specialists as future teachers, what can we do to help them? What we can do in our classrooms? Well, we can put in place universal design for learning, well known as UDL. So that means creating a classroom where every student can thrive. Here are a few simple ways to do it. So we can offer materials in multiple formats, creating flexible workplaces, pretty much making materials accessible. Also, we can use assistive technology like augmentative and alternative communications, well known as AAC devices, and this can be a game changer. These tools allow students who struggle with verbal communication to express themselves using pictures, symbols, or text. They're especially helpful for nonverbal students too, and those with more significant speech impairments, and it can be a key part of their speech therapy plan. So what happens if your school is with tight budget or the specialized multilingual services are not are hard to come by, where there are also plenty of ways to do it with no tech or low tech options. We just need to be creative. So it can be picture cards or visual schedules, writing prompts or sentence starters. We can encourage gestures, drawing, or point to communicate. We can slow down the way we speak with them or give them a little bit more time to answer. We also need to remember that reading, writing, gesturing, listening, and speaking all are valid for some language. So supporting this communication helps every child to grow. So there are so many great strategies we can use in the classrooms, but we need to remember that not every tool was for every person. So it is important to check in the right one for the students. So we can check in with the speech language pathologist to make sure the support is matching with the child's specific needs. So this is going to help us create a more unified and effective support programs. It's really important we keep an open communication between the speech language pathologists, teachers, and the parents, because this is going to ensure that the student gets consistent support and that their language skills are reinforced in all the settings. And just as important, we should always honor and include the student's home language and culture in the process. Now, my partner Lana is going to talk to you a little bit more.
Every child deserves evaluation in both languages. Families are vital partners in the process. We need more specialists who are both linguistic and culturally responsive. Multilingualism is a strength, not a problem.
Every language a child speaks is a doorway to the heart. Thank you so much for listening for our presentation. Thank you.